Um, maybe I hate to ask you to do it, Rafi, but would you mind reading that again? Let's see.
It's not on my screen.
All right, yeah, because I moved things around. So let me get it back. What in the holy heck fire is going on here? I'm not real fond of the way that they changed um, this around. All right. What in the holy heck? My screen. Okay. We'll get it there in just a second. Not sure why. Oh, because I made it small? Is that why? Oh, how about that? Is that better?
If you could make it just a tad larger, that would be nice.
All right.
Not necessary, but it would be. Well, I'll read it the way it is. Okay, have your glasses.
Okay. Put your glasses on. Yeah. Okay.
Ego and false autonomy. Again, a recipe for suffering. It is reasonable to ask how the mind could ever have made the ego. In fact, it is the best question you could ask. There is, however, no point in giving an answer in terms of the past because the past does not matter and it doesn't exist. And history would not exist if the same errors were not being repeated in the present. And that's all the mind does. It's a recording playback machine. Abstract thought applies to knowledge because knowledge is completely impersonal, and examples are irrelevant to its understanding. Perception, however, is always specific and therefore concrete. And perception says, "Oh, I see you as separate from me, and I separate myself from you, and I got to get stuff from you, and I got to I, and that's nothing to do with the reality of our infinite self. Quite the opposite, in fact."
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, Rafi. And I love it that he says to us, the best question we could ask is how we could ever have made the ego. Um, but it doesn't matter how it came up, right? Because it's happening right now, every day, every moment, every second, every thought. I am making up uh, the story, and uh, so don't ask, how did I make up a story before? Ask the question, why am and how am I making the story right now? I'm doing it right now. And so, when he says abstract thought applies to knowledge, because knowledge is completely impersonal and examples are irrelevant to its understanding, perception, however, is always specific and therefore quite concrete. So I perceive I'm in a body, the body seems old, I perceive the world seems crazy, I perceive so many things I think I'm perceiving that are telling me a story about what is going on. Knowledge is not a story. Knowledge is just a fact. So uh, you can relate things to facts, and you can relate things to stories too. But the stories are always going to be um, about something specific rather than something that applies to everything. Let's see. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Let me see if I can't be in control of my. There we go. Now I got them both. Yay. Does anybody else have any thoughts about this paragraph or anything that they'd like to share?
Well, just one thing about knowledge. If you take away the word knowledge and you replace it with omniscience, then you're one with the divine presence. If you use knowledge as facts, data, information, stuff like that, that's all. That's just a mental collection, which what we call the mind, and that isn't what we are. So listening to any of that is not only pointless, it is self-defeating. And the real self can't be defeated. But since the mind has no no ability to understand what infinite consciousness is, it's just going to keep beating itself up and saying that it's you. And if you identify with it, or I identify with it, then all it's going to is going to perpetuate the suffering and the false um, premise that somehow this body's real. I was born, I'm going to live a while, I'm going to die. That's really cute, but it ain't true. and and so it is self-perpetuating suffering. Um, Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rafi. And I'm thinking maybe if it is it looking really small to you, the text? I'm not sure, but um,
Okay, I got my glasses. I can read it.
okay, good. All right, good. All right. I just didn't know if I needed to just change anything. Does anybody else have any thoughts about this paragraph? It seems kind of it seems kind of intellectual and like a lot of concept going on here. So, maybe we can, move on to the next paragraph. And I mean, to me, it seems like that. It may not seem like that to anybody else, but um, I think the crux of it is we ask, how did the mind ever make the ego? How did the tiny mad idea happen? How did, we ever move out of heaven and into this crazy world? It doesn't matter how it happened. What matters is that every day I'm making the same choice over and over and over again to be caught up in the madness. And it's an everyday thing. It's not something that happened a long time ago. It's something that happened a minute ago. Karen, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, it kind of alludes to this in the clarification for terms in the introduction.
Get closer
Um,
to your microphone, Karen.
oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. I just got home from shopping, so I just plugged my computer in. All right, so this reminds me of in the clarification for terms in the introduction, he talks about this, how he says here, it is reasonable to ask how the mind could ever have made the ego. In fact, it is the best question you could ask. But then in the clarification of terms, he basically says that the ego will demand many answers that this course does not give. It does not recognize as questions the mere form of a question to which an answer is impossible. The ego may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen? And may ask this in many forms, yet there is no answer, only an experience. Seek only this and do not let theology delay you. So, you know, um, if I'm giving an answer, then I'm believing that the ego is real and that the separation happened and that my perception is true. Everything I see is real and it's a fact. And he's telling us that it's not. And yeah, I just think it's something that it's something I remember Ken talking about a lot. He would say that the question, how did the impossible occur? It masquerades as a statement basically saying that I do believe the impossible occurred. So I think for me, it's just looking at how much I do believe in this world and how much I do believe. Like today, for example, this morning I went shopping and I stopped in the laundry room really quickly for something. And there was a girl that I don't know very well in there. And she said, "Oh, what are you up to?" I said, "I'm going shopping." And she said, "Could you pick me up some potato chips and some iced tea?" And I'm like, "Sure, you know." And I said, "Well, do you have the money?" Like, just asked her if she had the money. And she said, "Not right now." So I'm figuring, okay, she has it when I come back and she'll have it upstairs and whatever. Anyway, when I get upstairs, she doesn't have any money. And then she's like, well, I said, okay. I said, well, when do you think you'll have the money? And she says, I don't know. And I just said, what did you expect me to just pay for you? Like, did you just expect me to buy this for you? Like, I was really confused, you know? And she said, I don't know. Like it just was very, very unusual. And I said to myself, don't worry about it. It's a gift. It's a gift. And I thought I was making this so real in the beginning, thinking, how could anybody, first of all, even just ask? I don't even barely know you. You're asking me to pick your stuff up. I'm thinking to myself. But then my mind has said, oh, well, do a kind thing for a stranger. What the hell? Be kind. That's what I'm here for. Be helpful. But I started to make it real, think, well, where's the money? And I got upset, but I felt more like taken advantage of. I felt like I've been had. And then I just said to myself, you know what, Karen, you had all good and watch for your good intentions, but I did have good intentions. I really did. I just wanted to do something nice for somebody, and I did. So that was it. I said, here, it's a gift, take it. And that was the end of it. But I took it so seriously at first. I made it so like, what? Are you kidding me?
Like, oh, you're so
So
irresponsible.
that's all.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, there was no, there was no way for you to know. What if you didn't have the money to get those things and you really needed her to pay you back? Um, but that's not what happened. And, you had enough money and you got the things that she needed. And when she's eating those chips and drinking that tea, hopefully she's, being grateful for, kind strangers in the laundry room. I mean, why did you even stop in the laundry room in the first place? Did you have laundry in there? Were you,
See, that's the interesting thing. I think, sometimes, you're just guided to do something. I was guided to go in there for something. I just had to check on something. And I really, it was, I got, I didn't have to, but I did. And I thought, oh, well, this is why I stopped there to help a stranger. I thought, well, this is perfect. It's a holy encounter, until the money situation came up. And then I thought, wow, like, look how the ego just jumped right in. Like, where's the money?
yeah,
But then
yeah,
it didn't take me long to realize that didn't matter, because she needed those chips and that um, iced tea more than I needed the money, to be honest with you. And I was grateful at that moment that I was able to give it to her. So, but the ego does speak first and loudest. And I believed it was so real, my thoughts, and they're not. So I'm just, in and out.
yeah, yeah. In and out is exactly how we are. So, and the times that we're more in than out, be grateful, because there's plenty of times that I'm more out than in. So, uh, thank you, Karen. Dove has his hand up. Go ahead, Dove.
I think Iris has her hand up first.
Oh, okay. All right. You know what? I'm looking at let me look at the list. For some reason, my list is not showing up right. So yeah, no, it shows you first. Or no, it does. No, yeah, it shows you first. But anyway, go ahead, Iris.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Dove. Thank you, Karen. And I was just like, it just, I had this idea, like, that, like, with reference to this paragraph, and then when I was reading it, I was like, I don't understand this. And then, like, when Lynn said it sounds very like concepts, and I was like, yeah, it does a bit. And then I had the idea that, like, it's true, this paragraph. And I had the idea that we've literally made everything up. Like, we have, like, they're just kind of laws we've made, and then, like, if we don't question them, we just automatically follow those laws. Yeah, like, for example, like in Karen's story, like the idea that I should pay for something that when I go to the shop, for example. Like, I mean, that's just a law quote that we follow. Like that, I should pay for something when I go to the shop. I mean, it's just something we've made up, or that I should be nice to somebody. I mean, I've just made that up. Like I picked it up in when I arrived or when I think I arrived here. And that the idea that I should go first is another law. And then when we believe those ideas, then we get upset. Like, um, when I believe that idea, like, then I'll get upset. And I'll be upset because, like, it just gives me an excuse to be upset, that but that's how this whole system is made up. It's made up like that. Like there was somebody in the shop the other day and they were like, they went in before me and I just stood there and they were like, no, you first. And I was like, no, please, you first. Like, it doesn't really like, I mean, I'm saying that it's just a law that the humans have made up. And and we do that with everything here. Like before this meeting, I was looking at like my work calendar and I was thinking, oh no, I have this meeting at 9:15. Oh no, when I got scared of this meeting, because I mean, I have this idea that like the project that I'm working on should do really well, and so does everybody else in that meeting. Have this idea that this project must do, and I haven't done any work on that project, not really. I've done only like a little bit, like literally, to be really honest, I haven't done much work on it at all because I've been working on something else. And here I am, like I was worried about this, and I was just thinking those guys are in the same kind of illusion as well. Like they also think that the project should go well, and I mean, and what is quote going well as well? Like it's all complete, like we've just made it up. And myself, I believe it every single day. Like, I believe it all the time. And then when I have a space to think, like, then I just think, well, it's just fine the way it is, Like, it's just, I don't really need to be like worrying about that, But just my point is that we really have made everything up. Like, and, for example, like that I should walk on the, like here in London, there's this thing that I should walk on the, when I'm in the tube, like I should walk on the right. Like if I'm walking on the left, it's just really rude. And like that is just a law, quote, it's not the law of God. It's just, something we've made up. Like, and then we use that to put guilt, fear, and shame and punishment and sin, guilt, and fear, and to use those ideas to beat everyone over the head with those ideas. And so, yeah. And then I'll just hand back to Lynn.
Thank you. Oh man, yeah, just it's so clear, so perfect. Thank you, Iris. Yeah, and it's all the shoulds. I should be doing this, I should be, you should be, we should be. Those are all expectations that have no basis in reality. They're just ideas. So let's see. Let me see if I can get us all in order now. I have Sharon up next. So go ahead, Sharon.
I just wanted to thank both Iris and Karen for how they, explained what they shared. Karen, what I saw like happen to you is something that really is helpful to me because sometimes if I don't pause for inspiration, my go-to is the people pleaser. So I would give it, like if I knew somebody couldn't afford that, I would go out and buy that. And that's where when I began the course, the people pleaser was right in the forefront. So if somebody like would do anything, I didn't have boundaries. And see now, Spirit is guiding me to realize that yes, it's my dream, and I want to be giving, and there's nothing wrong with saying I don't have the money. But obviously you did. But what I loved what Karen did was she had a laugh, and that laugh's coming from the soul. When we get it that this is all made up, we start to laugh from within us. It's very deep within. And that's what we have to do. But at the same time, it wasn't crazy that you asked her that either, because if you look at the law that we have here, the law is that, that people ask for things. Now, I feel that what you did was perfect. However, I think just listening to what you said, I tend to go the route, oh, I'll pay for it, or I'll take care of that. Or like I used to be online on Facebook, and these people that would ask for money from foreign countries, I would send it to them. And that to me is all part of guilt. It's like a people pleasing tool. And so now I just stop and ask within. But I just love both your answers, all of your answers. It's just perfect. So thank you. And I think the most important thing is that we'll just really go easy on ourselves, because our egos, they don't know what we are. They don't even know what we're doing. They're just a computerized program that we're listening to. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sharon. And whatever you do, do it with love, because that's the only thing that really matters at all, is the love that, the Beatles, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. That's it. That's all that really matters. Dove, please go ahead.
Okay, so looking at the first sentence, it's reasonable to ask how the mind could ever have made the ego. And if you really recognize the big picture here, the most natural thing that could have ever happened once we fell into a deep sleep, a dream, and remembered not to wake up, or a tiny mad idea entered into eternity and the Son of God remembered not to laugh. Same thing. Uh, the most natural thing that could have happened is that we made an ego for ourselves. And of course, as everyone makes an ego for themselves. And actually, an ego is necessary to operate, uh, whether it's in a movie or a dream or anywhere, because outside of the fact that the God did not create the ego, which means love did not create the ego, so the ego has no way of understanding what love is. It literally lives for itself alone, and of course sees other egos. So when I originally raised my hand, I was going to mention something that Joni put in the chat about 10 minutes ago. Joni this morning around 7 o'clock in the morning says, because she was listening to Ken Wapnick, she was in the room at a gather, and he was talking about politics, and she said, political is always there if I believe in duality. So that's why there is an ego, because we do believe in duality, because I'm over here, you're over there, we're talking to each other. That's duality. Obviously, this doesn't happen in non-duality or oneness or union or unity or any word you want to use for oneness, same as equality. But since the ego was not created from the love of God, it has no idea what kindness is. And it just so happens that Susie from Vancouver, I don't know if she's sending you her pictures, but she set out the other day to turn all of Ken's quotes into flag pictures, like she makes pictures. And I don't know if she sends them to you. She sent me the first 4 or 5. I sent them to Karen. I sent them to Mickey. If anyone wants them, I'm posting them now, starting today on One Mind, Open Minds. Open Minds and ACM Gather. So if you want them, and if you happen to be on Pinterest, she's also Susie has a thing on Pinterest where she's adding to her file on Ken's pictures. So those are different places you can get them. But one of them that just came across just now, she made it today, and I put it in the chat. This is what it says, one of my favorite quotes from Ken Rapnick. He says, if you are kind to all, that's A Course in Miracles. In other words, that's all you have to do for A Course in Miracles. You don't need the fancy schmancy metaphysics. In other words, the metaphysics is what we talk about all the time. Sacrifice this, that, and you don't need that. But the ego has no idea what kindness is. And I know that you're reading from the book, the Healing of Kindness. Kindness heals. I mean, of course, kindness heals because kindness only comes from love. To be kind to all. I just heard Sharon say, yeah, she should send money to people, and that is kindness. And then if you say, well, it's really people pleasing. I'm not sure if it's people pleasing. By the way, I am not sure it's people pleasing. I know that David Hoffman has a big thing on people pleasing. Kindness is really another way of saying people pleasing. I've recently been sending. I used to think it was really silly of me to send money to people because all it did is ask for more, and of course more is the Antichrist. And recently, I see it completely differently. Actually, I met somebody. She said she was from Hong Kong, and I answered her, and believe it or not, she said, "Well, I'm really from the Philippines, but I'm working in Hong Kong, but but I don't have a visa anymore, and if the Hong Kong authorities find me, they could put me in jail." I said, well, "How much is a visa?" So a visa is, I don't know, it's like $80. And I said, well, I said at first, well, that's really too much for me. But as it turned out, I sent her the $80 turns out to be 8,000 Philippine pesos, and she's getting a visa, so she can work there, and I feel really good about it. And I'm thinking, like, what did I give up? I gave up green paper strips, and I think it's my way of really being kind. The other way of looking at things, if you look at what Joni said, in politics, it's every man for himself. It's you or me. Kill or be killed, and the Course calls that sacrifice. And in lesson 187, paragraph 6, he says, sacrifice remains the one idea behind all of the world's suffering, loss, lack, and pain. I mean, that's not nebulous. That's very clear. So the word is, he uses the word sacrifice, but it's really kill or be killed. That's what it is. It's either you or me. And if there's only one bucket of water in the well, I want the water. I don't care about you. If there's only one slice of bread on the table, I want the slice. I don't care about you. That's kill or be killed. I come first. I think that's what I heard Ira saying. The desire to be number one. I come first. I don't care about you. You got to laugh. So the most natural thing in the world of duality is to make an ego for yourself who has no idea what humility or humbleness is, or just wants to be king. That's it.
Thank you, Dov. That's it. Just wants to be. It's good to be the king.
That's the king of the mountain.
That's it. And there is no mountain. Iris, please go ahead.
Or the fastest gun in the West. Okay,
Yeah. Either way.
yeah.
So we have Iris, then we have Sharon, and then we have Rafi. Go ahead, Iris.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Dove. I really find this very enlightening because, like earlier, like Lynn said, which I really love, that whatever you do it with love. Whatever you do it with love. Um, that reminded me of that sentence in NTI, which it said something like that like we agonize a lot about whether something is like whether what we should do, and I know because I do, like what is the right thing to do and all this stuff, and it's like, but the thing is that it says that it doesn't really matter what you do, but if the motive, that's the word, if the motive is love, then that's the right thing. I mean, it's just simple. That's if the motive is love, that's the thing. That's fine then. So I really love that. Whatever you do it with love. So if you want to do something and you love it, do it, and it'll be fine. And if you don't want to do something, then don't do it, and that's also fine. Like and like and I had an example with two projects, yeah, and one I really love, like I really love working on this one project. I don't know why, I just seem to enjoy it really a lot. And then there was this other project which I really found like so dull and boring, and it just I'm just doing it out of quote obligation because I've been told to do it, you know and I've noticed that the project that I really love is doing really well, and the project that I'm so bored with, but I quote think that I have to do, like because it's quote like an obligation, is just really not doing well, and so I think there's something there, like it's like a plant. If you give the plant attention and we water the plant, and the plant does well, and but if I just like quickly water the plant and leave it by itself, and it kind of dies. It doesn't seem to like um and the last thing, like there's a teacher, I really have no idea who it is. I completely forgot. And I completely forgot about this quote, like until now. And that teacher said something like, I forgot the whole quote as well, but it was something like it was something like what we are talking about. Like it said something like I completely forgot. It's something like do everything, but do it with love. It doesn't really matter what we do, but just do it with love. It doesn't matter like what we do, the thing itself. But so it's like the content, not the form. And reminding myself. And I'll hand it back to Lynn.
Thank you, Iris. How sweet. And it is funny because you look at these two projects, and one that you love and the other one that you're not real fond of, and you see that the one you love is doing well and the one you're not real fond of is not doing as well. And you look at the house plants and the ones that you water. I know I think my house plants have little conversations amongst themselves, that they're telling me, oh, is she going to water us today? Oh, here comes water. Oh, look out, water's coming. Or oh, I'm just sitting here dry for 3 days. What's going on? So, my house plants definitely have an opinion about me, and it's not the good one that I would hope that they had, because I do tend to forget about them sometimes. But of course, I love them, and they're they're beautiful, healthy things. But yeah, the ones that I pamper, grow, and the ones that I don't. And so, maybe take a look at that project you're not fond of and learn to love it. See it as, it's a gift for you. And see if you can make it prosper, because I know that you can. Anyway, Sharon, please go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to thank Doug for his sharing. A couple of years ago, Doug, I had called you because I was getting these I knew you were giving money to these people that were from poor countries, and it was you that said to me at the time, "Well, Sharon, that's guilt." So I got confused, and I do feel the way you explained it today. It is true. Like you don't giving it or not giving it, you have to look at your motive. And if the motive is that they like you and they accept you, then that's ego. But if the motive is freedom, just to give and receive, an example would be Byron Katie. When she would lose things, she would, like a ring or whatever, she didn't care. She said, well, they're supposed to have it. Because really, essence is moving through all of us. And some of our choices, they're really happening from a personality. We all know that. It's the divine will. So I think that was great that you shared that with us, stuff, because sometimes, years ago when I had an art school in Philly, I didn't have any money, and I had lost everything, and it was just like a circumstances where people loved my program. So I would teach. I had a teaching job in a school district, and then I'd go after and do art lessons. But I didn't do it from love because I needed money, and I still wouldn't charge them a lot. And that's where the problem came in for me because I didn't want them to know that I was hurting, that kind of stuff, the ego playing, the people pleasing. So you always have to know where you're coming from. And are you coming from freedom? If you're coming from freedom, like, why would you care? Like today, I teach a class at 1:30 to 3:30, and the kids are making such fun things. I don't worry about the supplies. I don't think about the money, but I love it. And you know what? That's the vibration. And when I substitute, that's the vibration. Because the vibration is always that you want unity for these kids. They want love. And always in this world, you want to give that to children. Because we don't know, there's some kids that, especially when I go into the schools where their parents are not around. And so it's the one thing that I feel has helped me more than anything is well, obviously the course and the vessel of love, just to show up as unconditional and to realize you can only give to yourself. There's no one else out there. So that's all. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Sharon. What a beautiful way of looking at that. Let's see. Rafi has his hand up. Go ahead, Rafi.
Hi. Well, what she said just now, we are all expressions of the divine. So whatever's showing up is there to teach us something. Somebody needing money, whatever it is. The worst stuff that people can do, the best stuff that people is still an expression of the divine. And there's a lesson in it for me to learn so that I can get to the only purpose there is, which is self-realization, freedom, oneness, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. The other thing is, here's an example of how petty ego is. This morning, I was getting ready. I knew I had this call coming on at 8:30 my time, and I had to get stuff for my daughter to get her ready. There's some medication she has to take. My mind was saying, "You're going to run out of time. You're going to run out of time. You're going to run out of time." And then knot formed in my stomach. This clutching thing happened, and I looked at the whole thing, and I thought, first of all, A, there's no such thing as time. B, I turn everything over to infinite beingness and know that it'll be perfect. And C, looking at this, everything is a death threat. Okay, everything is you're not putting toothpaste on the toothbrush. Correct. That's a threat. That's a death threat. I mean, because the over exaggeration of how ego works is just, well, how many times have we used the word insane? But I looked at all of that stuff, and I looked at my watch with my phone with the time on, and realized I had way more time. But the ego wanted to make a mountain out of a molehill, and the molehill didn't even exist. But that's how it operates. So I got in touch with the clutching in my gut. It came up to leave like all feelings. I allowed it to go. I got finished with it. I had my breakfast. I was able to take care of the medication stuff for my daughter. I was able to go and got here in time to put all of it worked out just fine. But to the ego, it was the end of the world. This was the worst thing that could possibly have happened. You want to talk about ludicrous? But there's a perfect example. And people go through that all the time, all day long, not realizing that they're an expression of the divine.
Thank you.
Isn't that the only thing? That's the only thing that is important to know. That's the only thing that's important to remember. It's the truth of what we are. Karen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rafi. Thank you, Dove. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Iris. Thank you, Lynn. My, this is such a nice conversation. And I love what Dove sent out. If you are kind to all, that's a Course in Miracles. You don't need the fancy schmancy metaphysics. And that is everything. And it's very interesting because I do feel I did, when I went down to the laundry room, when I saw her and the conversation arose, I felt like it was a holy encounter. And my intuition and my intention all was love, and it was all coming from love. When I got into the car with my uncle, right away he had an attitude. What did you do that for? What did you say you would get that for her for? What? That's how negative he always is. And it can rub off on me at times, but I'm like, I'm doing, I want to do this for her. I said, she asked me to do it. And well, where's the money? He said right away. And that's how it got into my head because he said, I wasn't even worried about the money, to tell you the truth. He's the one who was all about, where's the money? You didn't get the money? And I'm like, no. I said, she'll probably get it. I'll get it. And I didn't say probably, so I'll get it when I get back, whatever. So when I got back there and I saw that she didn't have the money, my initial intention was so genuine. I was coming from a place of love. My uncle was standing there and he said, well, when are you going to have the money? And I was just like, and she said, I don't know. And I was just like, I just looked at her and it was so innocent. She was so innocent. It wasn't like, I don't even think she knew what she was doing, to be honest with you. I don't even know why she thought what she thought, or it doesn't matter. It was just so innocent. And I was just like, don't worry, it's a gift. And I felt good about that, even though my uncle had a conniption going down the hallway. And he said, don't ever ask again to her. Don't ever ask again. His ego was loud and proud. And I just, to me, it's exactly what, what Iris said is there's a quote that Ken shares a lot, and it's by St. Augustine, and it says, love and do what you will. So when you're coming from a place of love, like Iris said, it doesn't matter what you do, and it doesn't matter what you say. It's the love that matters. It's the content, as Iris said. It is not the form. It doesn't matter. So I think this for me, I believe everything is happening for us, like we always say, and everything is a lesson for me to learn, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. And wow, you know what it's hard when we have an audience like an uncle is like looking at you and saying, "Why are you doing that too?" But that's it takes you to your real value. What is really true? And as Dove has said here, what do you value? And only what is changeless has any real value. Dove, go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah. What's changeless has real value because it allows you to come into the three laws of the Holy Spirit. And I always say, Holy Spirit doesn't have 365 laws or lessons, only has three. And the first one is to give all to all. Now, that's impossible if you're talking about anything that changes, or like money, or anything that has to do with numbers, quantities. Only in the qualitative, which is kindness and peace and light and love, the more you give, the more you have to give. Now, I originally was thinking of Rafi. Rafi's told us upteen stories of how he gives money away and then he finds more money in his bank account. It just the money just shows up. I'm having the exact same experience. When I give money up, all of a sudden I get money in my PayPal, and it just shows up. It's always showing up. Get a return from the taxes. It's always showing up. You never run out of money if you are the son of God, because the son of God needs to be a person who is autonomous right here. And the word autonomous is a very funny word again. I'm looking at the title of chapter 4, section 2. It says the ego and false autonomy. So there must be a thing called true autonomy. Now, what is true autonomy? True autonomy is God created his son in holiness, and there's nothing my holiness cannot do. There's nothing my holiness cannot. My holiness envelops the world. So if the holiness envelops the world, you are a giver, an extender of life, of peace,
Beautiful, beautiful.
of love. False autonomy, which means that you have no idea what love is. You are an idea to kind of survive in an ocean that seems to be full of other sharks, and I gotta get my meat before the other sharks get mine, and I find that I'm in a shark tank with Mr. Wonderful. Anyway, you know the rest of the story. That's it.
That's hilarious. Thank you, Dove. Thank you, thank you. Oh my gosh. And did you see, I just saw an article about, and I shouldn't be laughing, but it's funny that this woman was trying to take a picture of a shark, apparently that was very close to her, and it bit off both of her hands. I mean, hello, it's a shark.
Hello? I wouldn't read the word.
Hello, it's a shark.
Don't put your hands over there. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yes, in regards to the money that Doug was just talking about, there's just one energy. So my energy and the energy of money is the same energy. As long as you're in tune with that, it's just going to keep showing up because there's more than enough, and there's more than enough, and there's more than enough. There's more than enough of me. There's more than enough of it. There's more. I mean, infinite can't be even figured out for a moment by the finite, by the ego mind, which is a finite concept. So if that money and if the energy of money and my energy are the same energy, no problem having. It's all going to be there all the time. And yes, my network keeps increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing, and I don't do anything about it. It just keeps showing up just like him. And very grateful for it. Thank you very much. My job still is to wake up from this dream. It's the only job I got. Thank you very much. And let the dream do it what it's going to do.
Yeah. Elizabeth?
Hi, good morning. I found on let's just say the subject of money, that that has not always played out. And I won't go into many details. And recently, as some of you know, I'd been having this real severe back pain that I realized is very tied into what I'm reading. Last night I was rereading The Ego Strikes Back, The Return of the Repressed. And it addresses very specifically, we are here undoing the mind's decision for guilt. Guilt is at the heart of all of everything that's going on in our seeming physical world, but it's still happening in the secret dream, in the mind's dream, and it's steadfast decision to be separate, and it loves its guilt, and it is steadfast in not giving it up. And there was so it says, really, each one, it may not happen that way. And to compare that can be encouraging, but it said from this level, each part was, kind of scattered. We don't know if that's actually meant to be, oh, it should work for me. And then when it doesn't, it gets back to the guilt. Well, why isn't it working for me? There must be another reason. It says it's always coming back with the mind's decision. We're here to undo the decision, but we can't undo it because we're the living sort of manifestation of it. And there was one phrase right now, just as I was looking on my Kindle, and the Ken Wapnick book, this is one of his. He says, when we talk about the ego strikes back, and it happens to be my back that's going on, the ego is really striking back at the Holy Spirit. And even more to the point, the ego is striking back at the mind's power to choose the Holy Spirit. And its major weapon in doing that is repression or denial. And it said the term repression never occurs in the Course, but denial does. And it's talking about the psychoanalytic difference. But it becomes very central as it goes on more and more about what this guilt was. And later it says here's that the ego itself was an illusion and a defense against it as well. So it really goes into a very, each one, even though we're separate journeys, there may be fine differences there, because I realized that this is really coming down here. It says, the Course tells us the ego's goal is murder. And well, most of us, most of the time, don't walk around physically murdering people, but the murderous thought comes out in indirect ways. And that is to murder, the truth in our minds. And it talks about the resistance, coming from the unconscious. And it's a very powerful, I found it very difficult to kind of reread it last night. And then there was another one about healing the unhealed mind. And there's some very powerful, I'm just going to suggest undercurrents. So like it says, surface behavior is one thing, but that's just kind of a coding. And I'm not going to ask you to accept this, but I found for me, and what this seeming life experience has been since day one, I found that there's a lot of something deeper going on, and it really ties in, deeper than what we think about this guilt, and where there's a really core frightening part to be able to look at and yet not admit the murderous attack on God, on love. I mean, that love, of, attacking the Creator, and never wanting to acknowledge it, attacking the sun, and then making its own world of many, many kingdoms. And it will not relinquish that. So there's a different way of how do we awaken from this dream. And it may seem to be varying as each of us go through, let's say, learning curves. So trusting that there's something that can adjust our root within the greater root. So I just preface that in here because something in me was just getting inspired to present. There may be something even more deeper, again, than just saying, oh, this will come to me, for everybody at some point. So that's kind of where I'm just feeling to present. This is a very, like it said, the whole core of it is really the mind's unconscious decision for the guilt and the murder, more than just physical people murdering. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that for the moment.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. And I appreciate, and you've been on my mind. And I've been standing in the Christ with you, with your back, and all the other folks who seem to be having difficulties
Mm.
now. So I'm grateful.
And
I'm grateful
and
for you.
when I was reading a section of this, even today, it's I was able to get some rest, but even walking around, it's still very sore. And there was a way it was phrased, and even when I read it, I had to really watch it carefully because I realized this is the unconscious guilt looking at it. And it talked about how it swings back to itself, how this cycle keeps going, and then it strikes back. And I kept going, and what is going on? It's the back. And there was this looping of how as soon as it gets the recognition, it has to deny it and it'll find a way to strike back. So for someone, it could be finances, someone, it could be physically. It's always destroying. That's its intent. And it can lay very innocently at times. Oh, I'm the innocent one. I'm the kind one now. And it says, well, then there's still a difference of there's the better ego. I'll be the nicer one. And maybe that's helpful in the scene, but it said there's still underneath it all something going on that is very destructive and can be, it's always differentiation. And it uses that weapon, judgment, comparison. So each, I just again say, each one, whatever now moment, let's just say, until we're out of the classroom, we, really get to ask what's going on with this journey that seems to be showing up in my school, which apparently isn't someone else's. So not to make one wrong or right, because some can be helpful all the time, but to allow that the undoing process can't be done by us. It's being done through us. And it's still a very slippery slope of, who's guiding, because this whole body, this whole world is the ego's, we're, still the puppets looking to access that mind. And that's where that striking back came in, because it's like, wow, not a fearful
Scrappy,
thing, but it,
scrap, come here.
so just takes a moment to pause. So anyway, but it's always helpful, and I'm grateful we have these forums to bring out all the aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And yeah, wow. It is, you just have to pay attention, and that you can laugh about it. And I have a story. I'm going to let Dove go ahead and because he has his hand up, and then I have a little short story about something that's totally unrelated. Anyway, go ahead, Dove.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Elizabeth. I was listening. All this reminded me of a lesson that I used to go to a lot, and I haven't gone there in maybe years, and all of a sudden it came back to me. Lesson 344, and I on what we're talking about today, I do urge anyone who really wants to go deeper to look at lesson 344. I'm going to read it. It's very short. This is what it says. Today I learned the law of love, so that what I give my brother is my gift to me. And this is what he says. And I'll point out the part that I feel is so powerful. This is your law, my father. It's not mine. I've not understood what giving means and thought to save what I desired for myself alone. Yeah, I want to build up my bank account. I want to make more money. That's exactly what it says. Thought to save what I desired for myself alone.
CoinLedger is the crypto tax software platform.
I don't know what that is.
I've been playing. I've been playing this music. All right. I'm just going to keep reading. It doesn't matter. And then, as I looked upon the treasure that I thought I had, so he says, if you put money in your storehouse, when you go back to look for it, it's not going to be there. That's exactly what it says here in this lesson. It's not going to be there. This is the music I've been playing, by the way. That was just an ad on YouTube. So as I looked upon the treasure that I thought I had, I found an empty place where nothing ever was or ever will be. So you think you're putting money in a bank account and thinking, well, that's my money. There's nothing there. He's telling you that. Who can share a dream? Who can share a dream? And what can illusion offer me? Yet he whom I forgive would give me gifts beyond the worth of anything on earth. Let my forgiven brothers, let my forgiven brothers fill my share. I'm sorry, let my forgiven brothers fill my store, my warehouse with heaven's treasures, which alone are real. This is the law of love fulfilled, the law of love fulfilled. And thus your son arises and returns to you. And then the final two sentences, how near we are to one another as we go to God. How near is he to us? How close the ending of the dream of sin and the redemption of the Son of God. I highly recommend lesson 344 to all.
Thank you so much, Dove. And I do too. And whatever else your music was telling you, I love it. Uh, so I have just related, unrelated, I don't know. But about a month ago in Utah, this young fellow went out hiking. Now, people like to go and hike around in the mountains even when it's bad weather. But he was trying to train himself. He wanted to become a better hiker and carry a heavier pack, etc. So he was out hiking and he had this heavy pack, and he got lost. And so he thought that maybe what he would do was try to get, try to find his way home. And the pack he was carrying was really heavy. So he decided to throw this heavy pack down onto a ledge, and he would just climb down to the ledge and get the pack and etc. But once he threw the pack down, he realized that he couldn't go down to get it because where it landed was he was not able to get to. So anyway, they sent out a rescue team, and he was eventually rescued. This young guy. So here he was, rescued. Okay, over the weekend, a dad and his 12-year-old son decided to go hiking on this little, hiking in the mountains path. They got lost, and they were lost. The weather was cold, it was getting worse. What did they find? They found this pack that this young man had thrown down. And they opened up the pack, and what was in it? A tent, some space blankets, some snacks, some food, everything you would need to survive in this cold weather overnight, etc. So they found this pack just laying there, and they were able to use the stuff in the pack and survive. And so, come to find out it was this other guy's pack that he had thrown down. And what the other guy said was, I am a Christian and I believe that God had a reason for me to throw that pack down. And as inconvenient as it was for me and as scared as I was because I didn't have my stuff, here a month later, these people come along just completely unrelated and find it, and it saved their lives. And that's what you can't know. Throw your pack down, buy the chips and the tea, get the thing that you think is something that you shouldn't be, you're gonna regret later or wish that you had, because that is, I know, isn't it a cool story? That is a whatever we abandon, whatever we give and give freely, someone else can use, it comes back to us. So, holding on, I mean, the kid could have kept the pack. He could have tried to go down the mountain. It may have been useful to him or not. It didn't really matter because the real reason for the pack being there was for the father and his son, that they needed it. And the universe knew that. God knew that. I don't say God has anything to do with it, but it is all about the connection that we have, that we're all being put in a position where we can choose. And anyway, yeah, I thought that was a gorgeous story. I just loved it. And yeah, I think you're nuts going out hiking in the middle of winter in Utah, but miracles do happen. Karen, yeah, please go ahead.
Oh my gosh, Lynn, that story was so beautiful and perfect. And it's interesting, just a couple of things I left out with this girl. So she's severely obese. She was down in the laundry room doing her laundry, and she has to sit on her walker to do her laundry because she's so big. And those chips and that iced tea was so important to her. I saw it, and she said, I don't get to the store till Thursday. And, I could imagine how hard it must be for her to shop. And all I had in my heart was to get her these chips and this iced tea, So, I mean, like, the money really doesn't matter. It's the giving, like Dove was sharing, like you were sharing, like we're all sharing, and it's coming from that place of love and putting myself in her shoes, seeing how hard it must be for her, how hard, if chips and iced tea make her happy, then give her the chips and the iced tea, right? Even if they're not good for her, that's so what? It doesn't matter. And who knows what? How do I know that they're not good for her? Right.
Right.
That there's the ego. There comes the ego creeping in saying that, because she's obese, she shouldn't be eating chips. Well, that's it. There's the expectation that you were talking about earlier. Like the ego has expectations, like we should and shouldn't do certain things because of our laws that like we made. And I don't know where, somewhere in the course he says, I didn't make these laws, you did, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. We didn't make these laws. I mean, God didn't make these laws, we did. So we don't need to abide by them. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, our time is up. I'm just so grateful everyone hung out, and I'm so grateful for you being here with us this Saturday morning. It really gets my weekend going good. And I love you all so much. Here, I'll put my video on. And thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us.